Hey guys, I wasn't going to. I hope you guys are doing well. I wasn't going to originally film this, but I thought it might be important for you guys if you're going to take off this combi valve. It does look a little intimidating because it's buried up in there. You might think you have to take the alternator off and maybe the air pump, but it turns out you don't have to do that. So I'm going to show you what you got to do if you want to ever take this out. And in process, I'm going to describe some of these parts right here. Well, this part right here is extension housing. This is where the combi valve sits up on top. Now this part right here goes into the head, a counterbore inside the head, and this groove right here has this O-ring. Okay. Now of course, if you're going to pull all this out, be sure to get you a new O-ring. Okay. Now on top, as I said, the combi valve sits right here. There's a gasket. Okay. There's a gasket that's going to go up there. This is a new gasket, and I've already cleaned all this up. And by the way, inside here, this thing was really full of carbon, so I've got this thing cleaned up pretty good. So that's where the gasket's going to sit. Okay. Now the combi valve, I got a new combi valve. All right. By the way, here's the old one, and this one, if you look down there, I don't know if you can see it, but it is totally black with carbon down in there. Although it did work, like I said in an earlier video, this thing is on borrowed time. You got a diaphragm in here, it's going to get stiff, it's going to get hard. It's just a matter of time for this thing is going to go. So while we got this thing open up, we're going to put a new combi valve in there. Okay. So as I mentioned, this thing sits right up on the top with the gasket. It's going to sit up there just like this right here. Now there's two bolts, two socket head bolts. It's 5 millimeters. Okay. They're going to come up from the bottom. Right. There's one there, one up over here. All right. Now there's one bolt that holds this entire assembly onto the head, where this goes into the head. Now, if you look right down here, there's 4 bolts. If you look right here, these are all 6 millimeter socket head bolts. The longest bolt is going to go right in there like that. Okay, I'll explain what these other 3 bolts are in just a little bit. All right. All right. The only thing that you have to take out to get access to this combi valve and this extension housing is this here dipstick tube. You're going to have to pull that out because this here dipstick tube is right in front of this here assembly like that. Okay. So we're going to go over that and show you where that's going to be, what bolt you got to take out. By the way, while we're here, let me talk about these plastic lines, hoses, whatever you want to call them. They all work the same way. You may not be sure about how these things was going to come off and on, but look at all of them. They're all the same way. If you look at your connector, you see how it has the ridges up on the top? Okay, there's a ridge there, and if you look on the other side, there's a ridge on that side. Now this is going to be typical of all of these here types of lines here. So what you want to do to release this thing is that you want to take and squeeze this here part, the ridges down, top and the bottom, wherever they're located. Might be over on the side on some of the other ones, but you'll squeeze this down, and while you're squeezing it down, just pull it right off. Okay. Now let's go over to the car so I can show you where the dipstick is at and what these 3 bolts are. Now here's the dipstick tube. Here's a bracket. Now this bracket is mounted to right here. Now this thing goes up behind this here coolant pipe assembly here. You're going to find out that this thing is buried. The bolt is directly behind this here coolant pipe assembly. So what you want to do to get to it, to get this bolt out, look over here on this side. You'll see there's a bolt there. Okay, then come on down to here. Alright, you'll see there's another bolt right here for this bracket. Now, when you do that, then you can kind of lift this thing up out of the way, and then you can get easy access to this bolt here for the dipstick tube. Now these 3 bolts, they're all the same length. There they are right there, and you're going to find out that he's going to be a 6 millimeter socket head bolt. Okay, so once you get that, then just take this thing and just lift it straight up. There'll be an O-ring down there inside the crankcase, you know, where the other end of this here fits to. So it'll just slide in. That's it. And now once you get your dipstick tube out of the way, you can see there's a connector going to the alternator right here. You'll find that if you go ahead and just unplug that to get it out of the way, now you're going to see that here's where the extension housing goes into. I had a lot of carbon built up in there, so I've already cleaned this all out in there. Now if you can look right up there, that's where that one bolt, the longest bolt that I showed you earlier, that's a 6 millimeter socket head bolt. Now you may find that it's easier to get this out with a 6 millimeter hex bit ball driver. Okay, so you can angle in there to get it to it a little bit. Alright, and I'll show you what I was using. Okay, now here's what I got it out with. This 6mm hex bit socket head. It's a ball driver. Okay, you can see that. What it allows you to do is you can go in at an angle to release the bolts. I got a whole set of them here. So anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. Hope that might help you out if you want to pull that combi valve out. So I appreciate you watching, and you guys take care.